gentlemen, for joining us here on our platform this evening. So, Mr. Johnson, I want to go ahead and start with you, since you are the solar engineering manager at Konnex Services Limited. Please just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your company and what it is that you do. Mr. Johnson, are you there? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Right, so I was asking if you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and your role there at Konnex Services Limited as a solar engineering manager.
All right, so good evening again, guys. As we all know, my name is Jabulani Johnson, and I'm the solar engineering manager at Konnex Services Limited. And what we specialize in is we try to create renewable energy solutions for not only the average Jamaican resident, but we also try to create these renewable energy systems for also commercial and industrial clients, to not only help them to see a reduction in their JPS energy bills, but also help to promote a greener and cleaner future. And at Konnex, we also specialize in connecting people through different networks by installing smart systems and ensuring that we create a network of connectivity and improvements.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for that. And Ms. Johnson, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you so much again. So could you just go ahead and tell our participants here this evening about what you do at the Jamaica Public Service? I think every Jamaican knows what JPS is about. And so I would even ask you to tell them about JPS. Just tell us about your role.
I'm sure everybody knows what we do, right? So I'm Ruthlyn Johnson. I'm the customer service area manager for Area East, which is Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. So I'm not the area manager for St. Catherine. There's a different person for St. Catherine. But I guess I've had this relationship with the St. Catherine arm here. So that I'm the one that you call on.
That is indeed so.
But I'm here to answer all your questions related to JPS, definitely. And I hope everybody here is a customer and that you are, conserving for Christmas, even though we would like you to use as much as you desire, but we don't want you to use more than you can pay for. All right.
That is wonderful. Thank you for giving those wise words of warning, Miss Johnson.
Yes,
you
definitely.
Want them to use as much as they desire, but not more than
yes. I don't like when I see them and they're filled with angst and anxiety because the bill is scary. So we want you to enjoy it, but not be frightened by it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. And so, we're now looking at solar energy. What are the fundamental principles behind the solar energy and how does it work, Mr. Johnson?
So basically, solar works in a way where it captures energy from the sun, and which is absorbed by the solar panels, right? So after this energy is captured, panels then convert that energy to charge, which creates that electric power, that electric field, which then which goes to the inverter. And what the inverter does is that it regulates that electric charge and send it to the house or the building or send it to the battery. And what this does is that it creates a system where it provides exactly what you need, or based on a consumption basis, and stores some in the battery or directly powers the building and provides the energy that you need to be sustainable.
So in other words, what you are saying is that, just the same way how being connected to JPS grid powers your house and provides it with the energy for you to run your various appliances and equipment, then solar energy does the same thing.
That is correct.
All right, wonderful. Can you provide us with an overview, though, of what the current state of solar energy usage is in Jamaica?
Well, currently, I believe the current usage of solar energy in Jamaica has a lot of room for improvement. The solar industry on a whole has seen significant changes over the years because if you look at, let's say 10 years ago, solar was kind of a risky thing where nobody really wanted to invest in it because there wasn't much information available on it. But now we've seen that there's a ton of information out there where people are more inclined to invest in it, and people are definitely seeing the benefits. And the development, there's been significant developments in the solar industry where we see the panels are becoming more efficient so they can capture more sunlight to deliver more power. And the energy storage solutions have significantly improved over the years. So there's definitely room for growth, especially in Jamaica, compared to how the world is moving right now, where everybody wants to be sustainable. But there's definitely room for growth of solar in Jamaica.
Okay, wonderful. So you're telling us then that even technological advancements are taking place that are making it better for persons to benefit from the usage of solar energy.
That's true.
Can you tell us any of the improvements that have taken place thus far? You did mention about solar panels becoming more efficient in terms of capturing more sunlight, but
yes.
Is there anything else that has improved over time?
Well, yes, the storage options have improved over time, because back in the day, the battery storage solutions were similar to car batteries. These weren't so efficient, so they wouldn't last long. But now they've they've developed lithium-ion batteries, which are more efficient. They're able to communicate with communicate with artificial intelligence, so you can have an app on your phone and it's telling you how much your battery percentage is. It's monitoring your system's performance all at your fingertips. There's also significant improvements in solar agriculture, where Konnex has invested in providing solar water pumps. So a lot of farmers have invested in this agricultural system because it's efficient, and you find that a lot of farms are off the grid, which don't have access to JPS power infrastructures. So having solar in these agricultural settings have definitely been a significant improvement in the industry over the years, and we've seen people directly benefit tremendously from it.
Okay, thank you so very much for that. And it's always good to know that in any industry there are technological advancements taking place, because it means that the product is improving. And
That's
it means
true.
that customers or consumers are able to benefit from those improvements, and in many cases we are hoping that it will reduce cost to the consumers themselves. And so we're happy to know that that is taking place. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join in on this discussion, please feel free to use the raise hand feature, or to type your question or your comment in the chat, and we'll be sure to get you involved in this discussion. All right, so I do see a hand raised. Robbie, you can go ahead, unmute your mic and ask your question.
It's not a question. I just wanted to add something.
Sure.
And it's based on something that you would have asked about the improvement in the technology. So I will tell you off the bat that I am a true believer in solar.
Wonderful.
My house is powered by solar. So when I say I'm a true believer, that is what is powered in my house. I pay a very small bill to JPS, sometimes just the service cost. And I do get that $250 discount from JPS that brings my bill down to like $300 and something per month. So I am enjoying the sun to the fullest, right? The technology has improved. because as previously said, we're coming from the era of lead acid deep cycle batteries. And the biggest problem with deep cycle batteries is that you could only use half of what the rated capacity. Because if you discharge a lead acid battery below 50%, it actually damages internal cells. So if you want a 200 ampere battery, you can only use, you have to buy, if you buy 200, you only get 100. Now, with the new technology, which is not so new, but has been around in your cell phone and other devices, which is lithium ion technology, it allows you to discharge your battery down to like 10% without damaging a cell. And it does not emit any dangerous gas like the lead acid battery that you have to vent to the atmosphere. It takes up a lot less space, so you can put it on a wall. Exactly. So, and it has a lot more cycles, sometimes 3,000 plus cycles, meaning the number of times you can charge and discharge it, versus a lead acid battery that allows only 300 to 600 discharge before they start failing. And most require a lot of maintenance. Lithium, different technology. On the panel side, we have come far away from polycrystalline to monocrystalline, which is more energy efficient. You have bifacial panels that even capture more energies. And to add to that, panel cost and price of all of these items have been
reduced, yes,
over the last couple of years. So you find a lot more persons are going into solar because it's a way cheaper than back in the day when you buy a small system that cannot do much. Not to even talk about the inverters, because now we have a lot more players in the inverter game. It's not only the Victrons and the Schneider that is a $500,000 and $1 million. You can get an inverter for 150,000, 200,000. That is pretty much powering a small house. So the technology is evolving, and as previously said, it is getting extremely smart. These inverters can do a lot of things. They can sell back to the grid. Most of these inverters now, and they're coming in a compact form. Back in the day, when you're building a solar system, you would have about 50 things on your wall. Now, one inverter will do it all. Even the breakers are now being built into the inverter. So it has a built-in charge controller that manages charging. It has all the disconnects to disconnect the panel, disconnect the battery, and everything. So the footprint of a system now is much smaller. It's much more efficient, and it's just a thing to do.
Robbie, I think I need you on my sitting next to it.
Man, I was just thinking that Robbie sounds like he's an employee of Konnex Services Limited. Thank you so much for that wealth of information. It is indeed good when we have our participants online who are able to join in and share this kind of information. Trust me, thank you so very much for your contribution there, Robbie. I believe that you just shared a whole lot of things. You just delved into the technicalities of solar energy for us, and thank you so much for that. Right, I see Jay Daly as also Rochelle Kildare. So we'll start with Jay Daly first, and then we'll take Rochelle Kildare. So Jay Daly, you can unmute your mic and go ahead.
Okay, good night. Thank you so much.
Good night.
I am very much interested in the solar system, but question that I need to ask, connecting to the solar system, do I totally be free from JPS?
No, you can actually have a grid-tied system where you still benefit from benefit directly from the solar feed, but also have a bit of reliance on JPS power. So let's say, for instance, you have a fairly small system that won't take you completely off the grid. You can still benefit from the savings from the solar aspect, but let's say there's poor cloud cover or you don't have enough batteries to last you that long. You can still be reliant on JPS while seeing the benefits from the solar. And as Robbie said earlier, you still have the option to sell back to the grid. So let's say your system is producing more than what you need, you can still sell back some to JPS and through the net billing process while still seeing the savings. So you have the JPS on standby while benefiting directly from the solar at the same time.
All right. You know, this sounds like something that I would love for Ms. Johnson to tell us about what you just mentioned about that net billing solution. Ms. Johnson, you want to chime in on our conversation at this point and just tell Ms. Dahlia a little bit about that so she can better understand how the two things correlate.
Right. So the customer has it's a matter of choice and I guess affordability for a customer to decide if they want to remain connected to the grid or to completely come off the grid. Customers who don't have batteries would definitely still be connected to JPS because it means that at nights you would not have any power source. But those who do are able to purchase batteries and can come off the grid, but if they want to remain grid tied, it means that they would be selling excess electricity to the grid to become a grid tied customer and sell to us, which would be that you're a part of what we call our net billing scheme. It means that you would have to apply to the Ministry of Energy. That's where you do the application. It's not with JPS. You do the application with the ministry. They put you through the process. You do the application form, and I guess they would then look at your system to make sure that everything is fine. And once you complete that and you get it approved, then you come over to us, and then we would send a technician to your premises to make sure that we give you the correct meter that can do that kind of billing. So you have whenever you have the excess, we're able to pay you for it because we would recognize that excess is now flowing back to JPS. So one of the issues that we found with a lot of customers is that they go ahead and get, and Mr. Johnson from Konnex can tell me, there seem to be persons who are into the solar business who get these customers connected on solar, but don't advise them properly. So they end up wanting to sell to the grid, but then they have not done the application. They've not gone through the process. And so at some point they realize, why is it that I'm not benefiting from having my grid tie system, but then they've not gone through the process properly. And then when they come to us, we have to send somebody back to their place to explain it to them how they can get really officially grid tied so that they can actually get payment from JPS for their electricity usage. So we want to make sure that everybody is properly informed when they're going solar so that everybody can benefit from the process.
And to add to that, we've seen instances in the past with other installers where they've done grid tied systems, but didn't go through the due processing to get the correct meter, the application.
Right, so the customer doesn't have the correct meter, and so they're still getting a bill for $30,000 and saying,
exactly.
Wow.
So what happens is that excess energy which is sent to JPS is seen, that excess energy that the system produces is seen by JPS as usage. So when they see their system producing all this energy and they say, wow, things looking good, JPS is looking at it from the perspective of, wow, they're using a lot of energy, right? So they will be seeing bills even more than in excess of what they usually pay before solar, right? So going with a reputable installer who knows the proper processes and what to do and what not to do is always the best option.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because they do come to the office and they're behaving very badly, saying that we're thief because they're on solar and we're still sending them a bill, but they don't have the right meter.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that is some
just one clarification. I just need to get a little deeper understanding. So if I have that solar energy and I am not producing enough energy, will JPS automatically chips in and then I will get probably a bigger bill? That's I don't know. If I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
No, if you don't have batteries, right, you would be using solar in the day, and then at night you would come on the grid. So your bill would be cut by, let's say, 50% or at least, because it just depends on how much you use at nights.
And
because
also
you're going to use during peak
time,
time, let's say 6 to 9, and then after that you'd be you know, reducing your usage, and there's a point you're going to go to sleep. So you get a bill much lower, because in that case, you wouldn't be grid tied. You're not planning to sell back to us.
Mhm.
So you would not experience what we just spoke about. That really happens with persons who are grid tied.
Okay. Thank you.
But I mean, Mr. Johnson is here. So if you have an interest in solar, you really, as he said, should really go to a reputable person, somebody who can really give you good advice, spec you
Yeah.
properly, because there are people who are going solar who also don't realize that you want to save, but because you go solar, you then start using so much electricity that going solar doesn't work out for you, because you know, so you know, I have solar, so I can just buy another fridge, do this, do
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
buy a water heater, and then it turns out that you're not, it doesn't look like you're benefiting from it. So it's not just a case of just going solar. You would need to have somebody like a Mr. Johnson explain to you properly and spec you properly and go through the system with you and to determine what exactly your needs are and should you really go solar.
And one advice that we always give our customers is that going solar makes you more sustainable, but it doesn't make you invincible. Right. So while you know you have this free source of energy from the sun, it doesn't mean that, you know, as you mentioned, let's go buy a new fridge, let's go buy a washer and dryer, you know, and I'll still be fine. You know, so we try to educate our customers on the energy usage habits of going solar, right? Because as I mentioned, as much as you're a bit independent from JPS, it doesn't mean you have an unlimited source of energy, because once the sun goes down and you have no battery storage, then you're back to square one, being reliant on JPS. You know, so the energy usage habits is also an important part of investing in solar.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Ms. Dali, I do hope that you have some more clarification on that issue.
Yes, I do. So I'll be asking for a number for Konnex so that I can get maybe some more update and
Certainly.
proper
So, Mr.
check.
You can
What
feel
I'll
free
do, I'll just post my
to
contact information in the chat.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So thank you again for your contribution, Ms. Dali. Ms. Rochelle Kildare, it's over to you. And after you, we'll take Robbie. So Ms. Rochelle Kildare, you can unmute your mic and go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
I just wanted clarification. I was told many moons ago that for every person that goes solar, there is a quote unquote cost that is borne by those of us that are left behind. Is there any truth to that, Ms. Johnson?
Born by who? On your
the non-solar customers.
I've never heard that before.
I
don't know. I don't know how a regulated entity would do that.
Okay.
That electricity charges are not calculated in that manner. No, it doesn't work like that. The thing is, when we apply for new rates every 5 years, right? Every 5 years, and every 5 years, the OER makes the decision as to how much they're going to give us. So fine, let's say we ask for 10%, and the OER, when they do their calculations and they include our losses and everything, they say, okay, fine, we're only going to give you 2%. And that 2% is then calculated on the rates. So you see energy first, which is the first 100 calculated at X, and the energy next calculated at Y. I think it's $9 and $22 for the difference between the two. That's how you're billed. Nobody gets into how many people have gone solar, how many have not. It doesn't work like that at all. I can say to you that persons who like to say that we need competition, where they think that Jamaica should get another energy company, that's the only way I can see how maybe customers will then suffer in terms of new higher rates. Because if JPS that has the grid to maintain should end up with, let's say, 60% of its customer base moving to a new company, and JPS has 40% of its customer base left, then with the same grid to maintain, I could see the rates going up really, really badly. And then if the new company would then have to construct a new grid and new power lines, new everything, new plants and everything, they would then have really, really higher rates as well in order to recoup their costs. So it's really when you think of the competition that people like to crave and say, we need to get more competition for JPS. If that should happen, that's where I see customers really, really finding themselves with a lot of higher, would probably suffer with a lot of higher rates, but not from persons leaving the grid. Because as much as solar is a good alternative, and we don't beat up on solar because we understand the value of solar for persons who cannot afford the rates, because electricity is an expensive commodity. We don't pretend about that, right? And the JPS sells solar as well. So we don't beat up on solar, but we're not going to use that as a reason to say people should be charged higher rates because persons are going solar. No, that's not true.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I'm happy that has been clarified, because really and truly it's the first I've heard that one as well.
I've never heard it myself. Never heard that one.
The truth is, we know that persons, especially naysayers, or persons who can be a little bit cynical, will make certain statements that are just far-fetched. And to say that JPS charges their other customers an additional amount for persons going solar, I believe that is just far-fetched.
I don't know I wonder how we would do the calculations though. So we go around and find out, like, okay, one more gun, add another $2 here, another one.
Right.
It's an interesting concept, actually.
Yeah, and it's one that we're happy to know that is not true, because then the others of us, boy, I don't know how we could stand the cost at all. So Robbie, you do have your hand raised. You can unmute your mic and go ahead.
Something I'd like to add, it's extremely important that when you plan to go solar, you find a reputable company. There are a lot of persons out there that is doing solar, and they are, but they're not honest. And you have to manage your expectation when you're going solar, and they don't tell the customer the full story. I saw a video, and it's on YouTube, and it had some JPS rep who they were telling us, giving an account of something that happened. A gentleman bought a grid tie system, took a loan for about $1 million to get a grid tie system. He had a bill of $40,000. That was his light bill prior. Took the loan because he wanted to grid tie, save money. But at the end of the day, he only saved $5,000 off his light bill, and now he has a loan to pay that is more than $20,000. So he ended up in a greater deficit. The fact of the matter, he didn't have batteries, and most of his consumption is at night. So therefore, he really wasn't making any gains. But at the time, the person we contracted didn't explain all of this to him. So now he's in even a deeper hole. And this happens a lot. What I find, and persons approach me all the time about solar, because as you can see, I'm very knowledgeable about the area. And they will say to me, listen, all I want is a system to run my AC. Because everybody wants to run AC once you have solar. It's the number one item everybody wants to run. And somebody come and say, listen, I want to put 4 AC in my house. I'm saying, do you have 4 AC? No. But you want solar to go 4 AC.
Yes.
And I used to tell these persons, listen to me. That's not how solar goes. If you can run the AC, then you can run everything else, because the AC probably is one of the biggest loads you're ever going to run. And the thing about the AC that makes it difficult, it's worse than an iron, because you iron for 20 minutes or 15 minutes. A microwave might pull a lot of energy, but it's for 5 minutes. But the AC will pull 1,000 watts for 10 hours because you have it on for 10 hours or more per day. So not only does it pull a lot of energy, but it's on for a longer period. And that is what makes the AC so deadly. So they don't understand this. So they say, no, I just want to run the AC. I say, listen, if you can run the AC, you can run the whole house. So there's no system that you're going to build solar just for AC. It doesn't work like that. And a lot of them don't understand that concept.
Thank you, Robbie, for that. I have to be the host, take over the host job to say thank you so much for that, because Because solar is great, but a lot of persons are not doing it properly. And a lot of the people who are introducing persons to solar, actually, I think, I don't like it. I like the fact that they lack integrity because they have the customers just dragging them around and taking their monies, and they're not getting the benefit of that solar can really give them. There are persons who sell people solar and don't even tell them that in order to have power at night, you must have batteries. So there are people purchasing solar and have no batteries. And then they come, I've had a man come here to say, he thought that at night he just automatically went on the JPS grid. And I'm like, no, but why don't I have power? Because you don't have any batteries. What are batteries? What are you talking about? How can you sell somebody solar and don't tell them what they need to know? So that's one of the biggest problems. And I like the fact that you're here, Robbie. Robbie, do you have a business in solar, or are you just a customer? You use solar. Are you just a user of solar, or you have a business?
I don't have a business. But I'm from my electrical background. So I did my own system.
Please be a consultant.
Yeah,
Definitely sounds like he could be a consultant.
Yeah.
Definitely so. So Robbie, I think you need to share your contact with both persons. You know, you never know when you might get a call.
That is true.
Thank you so much for that information, Robbie. And walk us through the installation process, Mr. Johnson, as it relates to setting up, because you know we're talking about setting up the system and having it done properly, getting reputable agency to do it, etc. Walk us through that installation process so that those of us who really know very little about solar can have some knowledge, so that even if we don't employ Konnex to do it, we can tell, you know, if the next person is doing it right. Just walk us through that installation process.
So the installation process begins with us conducting a solar audit. And what audit consists of is we basically find out what your energy consumption needs are. We look on the roof, we see how the condition of the roof, because first off, panels go on roof. So if the roof isn't in a good shape or isn't in good condition, then that might affect how smoothly the project will go. So after we conduct the audit, now what we do next is we design the system. And as I mentioned, we design it based on the load testing that we do on the day of the audit, as well as we review like 3 months of the 3 months worth of JPS bills to see how much the load has fluctuated over a period of time to really pinpoint what the ideal system would comprise of. After we design the system and we submit a proposal, once the client accepts the proposal, then we begin to procure the materials. And once that is done, we arrive on site and we begin setting up the roof equipment, right? Which means the racking, the panels, running the conduits down to the breaker into the power room, setting up the inverters. And it's a pretty straightforward process, you know, not to draw it out too much, but it basically involves getting the roof and racking equipment set up, running the electrical connections down to the breaker and to the inverters and or batteries if you have those. And it basically, that would basically comprise of the bulk of the work, you know, having the inverter set up properly, ensuring that there's proper fail safes installed, breakers, fuses in place, ensure there's lightning arresters as well, because as I mentioned, systems being on the roof, they come in contact with all sorts of the elements. So I have to ensure that there's proper safety mechanisms in place to not only protect the system, but protect your house, right? And once all of this is completed, then, you know, we basically switch the system on and it starts generating power instantly.
Hey, thank you so much for that, Mr. Johnson. So, you know, I believe that we now have or should have a better understanding of the process. So if anything, or if any organization that we're hiring diverts from what you just indicated, should that be a red flag for us? Should that be some indication that possibilities are these persons are not so efficient in what they're doing?
Well, what we practice at Konnex is sensitizing the customers, right? As Ms. Johnson mentioned earlier, there's a lot of installers out there just selling people systems without giving them the proper information as to what system they need based on their consumption or, based off of what their future needs might be, right? So we practice sensitizing customers, and installers that don't properly sensitize customers, you might want to think twice before doing business with those type of installs, because at the end of the day, it looks bad on you. Even after you collect the money and gone, it still looks bad on you, and it affects how your business functions in the future, because you're leaving a trail of bad reputations behind. So I would advise customers that before they agree to invest in solar, ensure that you know everything, do your own research as well, and not only rely on what is provided by the supplier. So do your own research, as limited as it may be. Do some research and know what you're getting into, and make a properly informed decision before you invest in solar.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, Ms. Johnson, tell us, we have heard you talk about this net billing system, and you even gave us information about how customers can actually join or apply to be a part of the system. But how do they really benefit from it? How is it that JPS and the customers will work out that transaction where customers get paid for the amount of energy that they are producing?
The getting paid is how it works on your bill, or how I've seen it on the bills that I've seen where people do net billing, is that you use electricity via the, the sun, and then you would be selling electricity to JPS. So when you get a bill, instead of getting a bill that has, dependent on the rates, whatever the rates are, and I must confess, I don't know what the rates are right now, but I know that customers are usually complaining that they want to be paid more per kilowatt. That I do know. But you would get a bill that has a credit on it. So instead of getting a bill that shows $60,000 that you owe us, you see a bill that gives you a credit of $60,000, and it shows you how much electricity you're getting paid for. So it comes up on your bill. So for some persons, depending on how they use, it may be that they get a credit, which what in Jamaican language they say squit out what they would have used on the grid. But if not, you can also end up with just a credit bill, which can then be to your benefit. Let's say if you decide to come off the grid completely, then you close your JPS account. This would be money that you would get back in cash if you wanted it back in cash. But what you'll see on your bill is you'll see minus $60,000, which means that you have a credit of $60,000 from JPS, depending on how much you're being paid for, based on how much you sell to the grid. I don't know if Robbie sounds like somebody who might be selling to the grid. Robbie, you sell to us?
Robbie, are you there?
On a meeting.
Okay.
Robbie is not on right now, or maybe Jabulani, are you also as a solar?
Hello?
Somebody who sells solar, do you also sell to the
Sounds
grid?
like
Robbie, we were
not-
asking if you sell to the grid. Do you do net billing?
No, I don't sell to the grid, but I do know that so one thing I do know about net billing, yes, you do get the credit, but after a period in time, you don't have to disconnect from JPS to get the money, but they don't give you back money like every month or so. After there's a period, like a cycle, that you can actually get back some money at a point in time. So it's like they would give you, like, say, every 2 years or something like that. You understand? If you're in a position to get back. But it's not just giving a credit until the day you leave. No.
Okay. We have a Mr. Case at JPS who is like the best person to tell you everything you need to know about the whole net billing and how the funds are recouped and how that part works.
Yes, I know Mr. Case. Very
Same
much.
here. Yeah, good.
All
KC,
right.
man.
That sounds like we may need to have Mr. Case
On.
on our program at some
Or I
point.
could just drop his email address in the chat. So if anybody wants to contact him, you can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Johnson. So here we are learning that, you know, not only can JPS take money from us, but they can also give money to us as well, whether in the form of credit on our bills, or we can even get cash back from JPS for our solar energy production. And so that, I believe, is very good to know that, you know, they have that kind of relationship with their customers as it relates to, you know, solar usage. So it means then that JPS should appreciate customers going solar. That's what I'm getting from this conversation so far, that JPS actually appreciates customers going solar because they do help to provide some amount of energy for them. But in terms of go ahead,
they
Ms.
provide
Johnson.
energy for us, and it's also green energy. We really are into sustainability. So we have no problems with green energy. We have no problem with customers being able to sell to the grid. We have no problem with customers being able to use electricity and be able to afford it, because that's key and critical for us. Believe me, we don't like the people bawling and pained and angst and anguished. So we like when customers are getting the comfort that electricity can provide, and they're actually able to manage their bills or their consumption, whichever way it works for them. So we have no problem with solar.
That is good. That is good to hear. My next question is, in terms of returns on the investment, because at the end of the day, any investment that anybody makes, they are looking to benefit from that investment. In terms of returns on the investment, what's the average return that we're talking about? And if you could also go ahead and tell us what that investment cost is like. All right, Mr. Johnson.
1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So the average system typically costs around, looking at around 1.7 to about 2.3 for the average system to run, to power, let's say, the typical household, 3 bedrooms, you know, TV, AC. This would provide you with approximately, you know, looking at about 10 panels, inverter, batteries for nighttime usage. And the typical return on this investment would be around 3 to 5 years. And this system, as I mentioned, would cost approximately 1.7 to as much as $2.5 million. I think you're muted.
Right. So in other words, what you're saying then is that if I invest that 1.7 to 2.3 million now, yeah, in terms of reduction in my bill, money going back in my pocket, within about 3 years, I should be able to see that I have retained that 1.7 that would have been spent in bills. Is that what you're saying?
That is true. You would by the end of this period, you would have fully recuperated that investment, and all that money would be savings afterwards.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Robbie, you can go ahead and mute your mic.
Yes. As you speak about return on investment, one of the things I tell persons, listen, some person will approach me and say, hey, I want to go solar, and I say, what's your bill? So I'm paying $5,000 per month to JPS. I say, stay on JPS. You see what I'm saying? Just stay on JPS. You're paying $5,000 a month, stay on JPS. Because the time it's going to take you to recoup your investment is going to be extremely long. Just imagine that. When the price of a panel is $30,000 and you have 10 panels or even 8 panels, how long is it just going to take you to just recoup just the cost of the panels? So if your bill is not at a certain level, it just might be more, it just, more meaningful for you to just be on JPS. So you have to take into consideration the bill that you have. It's not for everybody. And it as return on investment is, it depends. It depends on on your situation.
Wonderful. What's the lifespan like for the system? Because if you're saying it takes about 2 to 3 years to see returns on your investment, the question is, what's the lifespan of the system? Because you want to know if you're not just going to get back your investment, but if you're going to be able to see additional returns. So what's the lifespan of the system?
Well, current systems nowadays, especially for the panels are rated up to 25 to 30 years. You can get, the efficiency of the panel will decrease over time, but they'll still produce. As for the batteries and inverters, you can get up to 10 years out of these components easily, right? Once you keep up with the proper maintenance and servicing of them, right? But you can definitely see your system lasting 1 to 2 decades once it's properly maintained.
All right, so tell us about the maintenance process. How would a person be able to maintain their system? How costly is it? Is it something that they can do on their own, or will they have to employ persons to get it done?
The solar is fairly low maintenance, because ideally, you might find yourself having to probably clean out the inverters, because these things have cooling fans, and with lint and dust in the air, these things might gather or clog up in the inverter fan sometimes. So it might require you to just clean the inverters, clean the panels, and you can do it yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it, seeing that you're working with electrical components. So you run the risk of, especially if you're not a trained or knowledgeable person like Robbie. I'm pretty sure Robbie services his own system. Right. So if you're not like me or Robbie, then I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself. Always try to rely on reputable people, because you doing it yourself just might introduce further risks that didn't exist before. Right. So as I mentioned, it's fairly low maintenance. We recommend having your system checked at least once a year, just to make sure everything is working fine, because cables might be loose, panels might get damaged over time. So it's good to have your system checked at least once a year, just to ensure that everything is nice and in good working order.
Wonderful. So you're saying at least once per year?
At least once per year.
Okay, that's wonderful. So in terms of being affected by the elements that you mentioned earlier, how those different weather conditions affect the system and the efficacy of the system?
Well, surprisingly, the systems are pretty resilient to the elements, separate and apart from things falling on the panels and cracking them. The mounting hardware that bolts into the roof are rated up to category 3 hurricanes. So they're pretty sturdy, as well as the inverters. They're resilient to the elements, in terms of some inverters are rated to stay outdoors. They're waterproof, dustproof, snow, freeze proof. So the systems are pretty resilient in terms of how they react to the elements. Not all inverters are rated to these standards, however, but most of the systems are pretty weatherproof.
Okay, wonderful. So it means then that persons can expect that these solar panels, the solar systems, will be able to withstand the elements, and they don't have to worry about it. They don't need to remove it from their roofs whenever there's a hurricane coming or anything of the sort. They don't have to worry about that, because these panels are designed to withstand the elements.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so tell us now about the environmental impact, because I've heard both yourself and Ms. Johnson make mention about green energy, clean energy. So in terms of solar usage, how does solar usage benefit the environment versus what we're currently using with our electricity in terms of using fuel?
Well, solar is very beneficial to the environment. It reduces the carbon footprint and created by emissions, produced by burning fossil fuels to generate electric energy, right? It also reduces the dependence on the energy grid, which in returns reduces the need for JPS to be producing all this energy to supply the consumer. So it
Well, I think we may have lost Miss.
System. Right.
Yeah, we may have
So
lost
as he said, it's he's back.
It sounds that way.
I'm back.
All right, Mr. Johnson. Welcome back.
Is that hearing me?
Yes,
Yes,
we're
we're hearing you.
Yes.
You're coming
Right.
in.
So as I was
You're coming in a little bit choppy, but we are hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I was mentioning, so investing in solar definitely creates like a chain reaction of benefits for the environment, right? As I mentioned, reduction in fossil fuels, reducing the dependency on grid supplied energy. It's greener and it's cleaner, so it's definitely worth the investment.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. You want to add anything to that, Ms. Johnson?
Well, no, just to say that, I mean, fossil fuels and those other fuels that are used to produce electricity, they are not unlimited. So, we've always heard that there's going to be a point where you won't have any more of that. So using sunshine is, I'm sure that I don't think there's going to be a day when we won't have any more sun. So at least we know that that's lasting as against some of those other sources of fuel. So it's definitely, in the long run, a more sustainable and better option for electricity generation.
Wonderful, wonderful. So here we are seeing that, going solar doesn't just benefit our pockets, but it actually benefits the environment as well. And so, I think that for those of us who are environmentally friendly persons who want to ensure that we are playing our part on impacting the environment in a positive way, then, if we're able to, we could consider going solar. And in terms of, as we are talking about the benefits, is there anything that persons need to consider in terms of the different systems? Are there possibly different brands that some might be better than others that we may need to know about?
You see, when it comes to brands, in my opinion, and based off of studies, most modern solar components are fairly good. As I mentioned, the industry has come a far way over the years, and there are standards that have been put in place to regulate the manufacturing and distribution of these components. So even the components that come from China, we have the stigma against China that nothing good come from China, but China is currently the leading manufacturer of solar equipment in the world, right? And these things are rated to very high standards, to the point where they're even putting larger US-based companies like Tesla, they're causing Tesla to have to rethink and restructure their strategies. So equipments nowadays are fairly high quality and of high standard. So it all depends. Sometimes it comes down to affordability, right? Because most of the currently supplied brands are fairly good and reputable.
Okay. So it means then that, we don't have to think too much on the brand per se. As long as we're going solar, we can expect that we're getting something that should be lasting. That's what you're saying?
Yes, and once you contact a reputable supplier, then the consultation process might involve, finding out what your budget is and designing or recommending the components to not only meet the expectations, but also, kind of watch how it affects the pocket as well.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so Robbie, you have your hand raised again. Please feel free to go ahead and unmute.
As you touch on the topic of brand, yeah, so just to add something to that, if you are in the industry, you will realize that I can show you one inverter that you will find come under about 4 or 5 different brand names. The same manufacturer produced that inverter for different markets and give it different names. Everything about that inverter is the same. So that is what you find out there. A lot, right? And it's here. We have it, and the price there is the same inverter, all components, but the price will go from anywhere from 400,000 to 800,000 just by the branded, but it's the same item, just for different markets. So he is correct there. There are a few inferior inverters, just a few out there, but that is why you need to get your reputable dealer. I've had friends that had inverter fail and under 2 years, more than one. And when I look in those inverters, because I go deep in this, I can see where the quality of some of those are not the best, right? They went the cheaper route and they went to AliExpress, right? Express themselves and find because they were looking for a deal. And they got a deal and the deal just didn't work out how they expected it. So, but here when you buy from the persons here, the contract, you tend to get good inverters and they give you warranty periods. So if there's a failure, it's not on you.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you again, Robbie, for those words of wisdom. And I'm checking the chat and I see where Miss Nerese Hines Wilson, she's asking, my home has zinc roof. Can I invest in solar power? And is there a risk in having solar panels on zinc roof? And I think that's a very, very important question.
Yes, that is a good question. And of course, there's no issue with installing solar panels on a zinc roof, right? Because as I mentioned, as long as the roof is in good condition, right, then there's no real problem, as long as it's capable of accepting the mounting equipment that we would use to install the panels, then there's no problem with installing panels on a zinc roof.
Wonderful. So Mrs. Hines Wilson, it means then that you can feel free to go ahead and install your solar panels on your zinc roof. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, if anybody else has any questions that they want to ask, any comment that they want to make, you can feel free to go ahead and put that question either in the chat or use the raise hand feature. And once again, we're having discussions with Mr. Jabulani Johnson and Miss Ruthlyn Johnson. Both are from Konnex Services Limited and Jamaica Public Services, respectively. So Mr. Johnson is from Konnex and Miss Johnson is from JPS. And I am seeing here, Devon Thompson has his hand raised. But before you go ahead, Mr. Thompson, let me hear from Ms. Johnson. Go ahead.
Okay, I really have a question for Mr. Johnson, actually. So really, Mr. Thompson should go before me.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Well, I find this discussion extremely interesting and educating. Why? A few years ago, we through grant funding, we installed it now sounds like a so-called grid tie system to a particular building, 2 buildings, and I discovered that we were paying higher electricity bills to JPS, and up to now it's the first time getting a reasonable explanation as to why. Even the installers couldn't help me. So what currently now happens is that I shut off the inverter because I pay less when I'm not using the solar in one of the buildings. And I'm just learning now about correct meter and all those things. No, first I hearing about those things. So the system is there on the building. It is, but we don't use it. You don't use it. We chose the grid tie because the place only used in the days. Nothing takes place at nights, right? And we thought that we would have benefited. And I'm just learning now from this discussion exactly what happened. Nobody, the installers, the suppliers, never tell us anything what I'm hearing now. So we have to find a way now to ask somebody to come down and see if they can sort out the thing. The equipment seems fairly good. These 20 panels we have now, and in the building I want 24 panels. And some 4K or some 4th generation inverter, etc. But the thing has never helped us to pay less. So I'm learning tonight.
You are not alone.
Boy, I tell you.
There are many of you. The only thing that pains my heart is that customers are trying to do something to benefit themselves and they end up worse off. And then, but most of them come to JPS and cuss us out. And so that we found a way to rob them no matter what they do. So,
wow.
and it's just crazy, but I'm happy that you're here to get the correct information. And I'm sure Mr. Johnson is there to assist you with sorting it all out and getting it, getting you on the right path. So you can actually benefit from something that can be good to you.
Millions of dollars and it's just there sitting down.
It's very unfortunate.
In such a case like this,
very unfortunate.
In a case like this, Mr. Johnson, know that he's explaining that he has literally had to shut off his system because he's paying less when he's not using it. What can Konnex do to help in such a situation?
Well, what we do in situations like this is that we lead the entire process of applying for the grid tie for the net billing system, right? So we conduct the inspection, we do the wire design, the wire drawings, we facilitate applying through the Ministry of Energy and Engineering. Then we do the whole JPS application process. So all the customer does is just pays the fee, and we lead the entire process, right? From conception to delivery. We facilitate that entire process for the customers.
So, Mr. Thompson, I think you may want to check the chat for that contact information for Mr. Johnson, and you can have dialogue with him so that you can see the benefit of your millions of dollars investment. All right?
I certainly will. I checked the chat, but I didn't see the number. So just remind her to please don't post it so I can get in touch with you. All right?
Just scroll up, you'll find it. Just scroll up, you'll find it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, or maybe Mr. Johnson might want to post it again. All right, I have a question for you, Mr. Johnson. I'm just curious from my own personal position. I wanted to know, what are the technologies and what are the improvements in the technology as it relates to batteries? Because at one point I had a friend who had a lot of batteries and just did not know what to do with them once they've done their time. He didn't know what to do with them because he's saying you can't just throw them in your backyard, and you at the same time he didn't know if he could carry them down to Riverton. He wasn't sure what to do with them. What's the status these days as it relates to batteries in terms of disposal and that kind of thing? Or can they be recycled? I don't know.
Sure. Was that question? It seemed like I lost connection a while ago. I didn't catch the first part of that question.
Oh, I'm asking if there have been improvements in the technology as it relates to batteries, because I have a friend who wasn't sure what to do with them when they've done their time. He couldn't recycle, and he wasn't sure if you can just dispose of them in a landfill or that kind of thing. I think he's frozen again. Seems to be frozen again.
Yeah. It seems as though he's having some connectivity issues.
Yeah.
Are you with us, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I'm here. I'm with you now.
You heard the question?
Did you hear the
The
question?
last thing I heard was improvements in batteries.
Improvement in battery technology.
All right. What she's really asking, Mr. Johnson, is in terms of disposal, where the batteries are concerned. What's the best way of disposing the battery? And are there recycling facilities for the batteries? I hope I captured the essence of your question,
Yeah.
Ms. Johnson.
But he's frozen again, though.
Oh, seems we're having and I think many persons are having connectivity issues. I have been getting messages from persons indicating that they're having challenges with the Wi-Fi, and
Let me relocate to a better location. Give me a second.
okay. And we have had a number of our participants, dropping off as well, coming on and off. So we do realize that there are some connectivity issues going on. All right, I'm hoping that you're in a better position right now, Mr. Johnson. And I see someone in the chat saying that maybe Robbie knows the answer.
I was just going to say that maybe Robbie can answer the question.
Maybe Robbie can pitch in here for Mr. Johnson while he sorts out his connectivity problem.
All right, so let's
All right, so Mr. Johnson is back. So I'm sure that he'll take the help, Robbie.
All right, no problem.
Mr. Johnson, are you there? All right, Robbie, you can go ahead.
All right, so we have two types of batteries. So we first have to make that distinction. So the batteries that you're talking about would be the lead acid batteries, which is the older technology. And
all right, so where are we?
Hello?
All right, Mr. Johnson, you're back on. All right, so he's still having some connectivity issues. You can go ahead, Robbie.
All right, so let's make that distinction. So the first generation batteries, which are lead acid batteries, which you should not dispose in the dump because they have been lead and acid and it's bad for the environment. No, this same like the batteries in your car. No, those batteries, they will take those batteries. Even the garbage collector will take them because they have they're made up. They will tear them down and take back out the lead and repurpose and all of that for the lead acid batteries. So yes, they do recycle lead acid batteries by tearing them down and reusing the components. But the industry has now moved away from lead acid batteries because of the inefficiencies of lead acid batteries, and now using lithium batteries that last much longer, greater energy density. And when I say energy density, it means it stores a lot of energy in a smaller form versus a lead acid battery. Secondly, it is safer because when you use lead acid batteries, it emits a gas that is poisonous, and that is why you have to put lead acid batteries in locations that are properly vented. With these new lithium ion batteries, you can put them inside your home. Lithium ion batteries have its own danger, which is another thing, which if not used correctly could cause a fire, which is a different story. That's a downside, but lithium ion batteries are generally safe, once treated correctly. But the new technology that is lithium, that is where everybody is going. But it was much more expensive. Right now, a 5 kilowatt-hour battery will run you over 200,000. And I remember the days when a 5 kilowatt battery will run you 600,000. So as you can see, the price is coming down. For example, my battery that I have over 40 kilowatt hours worth of lithium ion battery. But because of my expertise, I was able to do it for a lot less than you would pay, But the thing now is that everybody is going to lithium. It's compact, it fits in a nice corner, it's more energy dense. And that is the way, and it will last. Some of these batteries are now lasting anyway 10, 15 years, right? Versus the lead acid battery that will only give you like 3 to 6 years. In terms of disposal of lithium ion battery, that is still a challenge because we don't have anywhere in Jamaica that recycles lithium at this point in time. but we're not there as yet, but we have to fix that. That is something that we will have to look at, how we dispose of lithium-ion batteries. But there's nowhere in Jamaica you can actually dispose of that technology at this time. I hope I did justice with the question.
Well done. Thank you so much.
I think you most certainly did, Robbie. So thank you very much for pitching in for our panelist, Mr. Johnson there, because it seems we have lost him. We're trying to get in touch with him to see if he's going to be able to get back on to the program. But, you know, the discussion will continue in the meantime. So I might just have to ask Robbie to continue to pitch in just in case we have more questions that, you know, you can respond to for our participants here, as well as for us, to help us better understand this whole solar energy thing. Something came to mind whilst you were speaking. Something came to mind whilst you were speaking about the lithium-ion batteries. We know that motor vehicles now are going electric, and in many cases, you know, they are solar charged. Are these the same type of batteries that are used in these electric vehicles?
All right. Well, that's a good question, and I'm happy you asked that question, because, you know, that's my end goal. My dream is to have an electric car, because I don't just want to you know, pay less to JPS. I want to drive past the gas station also. So that's a part of my dream, right? That's my end goal. I'm working towards that. So it's the same lithium technology that is in the motor vehicles, the battery, and that's one of the reasons why the battery is getting cheaper. Because of this wide adoption of electric vehicles, the market is now producing a lot more batteries. So because of that, now you find that there's a lot more batteries on the market, therefore the price is going down. Lithium is getting even cheaper. Now it's the same lithium-ion cells, because there are actually some cells that they put, and you have two types of cells. You have the lithium-ion regular cells, and then you have lithium-ion phosphate, which is a more safer technology that is now being adopted. But what you find is that, right, I'll tell you where, as simple as it is, even in the older generation of laptops, we have some round cells. If you ever break open an old generation laptop battery, you have some round cells in it, right? Those are actually lithium-ion cells. Now, if you take the first generation Tesla and break apart the battery that is in the first generation Tesla, is the same type of cells. And those are some 18650 lithium-ion cells. So the first generation Teslas use the same cells that are in laptop batteries. Now they have moved on to other types of form factors of lithium-ion batteries, but there is the same lithium-ion batteries they are using in cars. And in fact, I assisted a friend to take a car battery and use it as his energy storage. I am that good. Yeah, I took the lithium-ion battery that came from a car, and I did all the work on it, and he's now using it as his home storage for his solar system. So it's the same thing. Once you understand how it works, you can, you know, if you have the skill set, you can always make it work.
All right.
Is everybody hearing me?
We're hearing you now, Mr. Johnson, and welcome back.
Perfect. You know, technology doesn't always work in our favor.
That's true. That's true.
So where were we?
Well, the truth is that the question that we had for you, Robbie, did a fantastic job of answering it, and even answered another question. We were just talking about in terms of the disposal of the batteries, in terms of the lithium ion versus the lead acid, and Robbie, you know, very much answered that question for us. And I was also asking about if the lithium-ion batteries that we're referring to in terms of solar usage, if it's the same batteries that are being used now in the electric vehicles, and he did indicate that in most cases it is in fact the same, or they are quite similar.
Yeah, right. They're very, very similar. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. All right, so there was a question in the chat that I believe I bypassed, but a comment that I just saw from Marvis Horton just jogged my memory. There was a question being asked if there is any relationship with NHT as it relates to getting loans for setting up solar panels with Konnex. Is there any relationship with NHT and Konnex as it relates to the loan for setting up the solar system and through NHT? Mr. Johnson? Seems we may have lost him again. Wow. All right, so it seems we're definitely having some challenges with his connection there. All right, Robbie, someone is asking, Mr. Thompson is asking if you can go ahead and share a contact that persons could get in touch with you in terms of getting some information. So if you would like to, Robbie, you can go ahead and share. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. All right. One of the things that I want to ask before we go on, Mr. Johnson, you look like you're back. One of the things that I want to ask, the risk. We know that in everything there is some amount of risk, and in any investment there are risks involved. What are some of the potential risks associated with investing in solar energy, and how can investors mitigate against these risks? You're muted, Mr. Johnson.
So some of the potential risks would definitely involve would be a financial risk right off the bat, because most solar systems aren't, for the use of a good word, aren't cheap, right? So it comes at a financial risk, especially if you don't go with a reputable installer. You might find yourself, as Mr. Thompson had mentioned earlier, investing all of this money and not seeing the benefits at all, right? So they come at a definitely come at a financial risk. They come at a risk of, imagine having your roof, ensuring that your roof is in good condition. So these are some of the other risks. You want to ensure that you have a stable roof to facilitate the mounting of the panels, ensuring that you go with a reputable installer, right? So to mitigate these risks, there's one primary mitigation strategy to avoid these risks, which are consult a reputable installer who will share the necessary information so you can make a well-informed decision, right? They also have the risk of being exposed to the elements, right? Given the fact that these are items that will be outside, you want to acknowledge that it comes with a risk of being potentially damaged by acts of God or, natural disasters as well, right? So though the system is not invincible, and though it's weather resistant to some extent, the risk still exists, right? I have to bear that in mind before you invest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Do you want to add anything to that, Ms. Johnson?
No, I have nothing to add to that one.
Wonderful. Well, Robbie,
and I think I'm not.
Go ahead.
Also
Mr.
add, the risk of. So I think Miss Johnson could chime in if she wants to on this one, but the risk also exists where, for instance, currently there's government incentives like our government programs, like the net billing program. The risk of government pulling this benefit from the solar consumers also exists, even though it's not a definite or a given, right? It's still a possibility, right? That government might change the net billing rate so the consumer doesn't reap the full benefits that they're currently eligible or they're currently receiving.
Okay, got that.
Hear you on that one, but I don't think it will. Well, I guess it could happen. But I don't suspect so, because I mean, our government also are advocates of green energy. So they've given, I mean, they've given even us a mandate to move or needle in terms of green energy by certain times. So it would be shocking to me if they did that, because that would actually, you know, cause people not to want to go that direction. So I think they will do whatever is necessary to encourage persons to actually go green.
You know, as we're talking about this, I remember probably about 2 days ago, I heard on the news that the government actually now has a program where they will be issuing over 10,000 solar lights to persons in the rural areas and persons that do not have easy access to electricity. So, you know, that's something that persons can look out for.
Solar lights or panels? Solar lights?
Lights. They have 10,000 lights that they are going to be issuing to households across various constituents. So persons can look out for that, and I think they would have to speak with their member of parliament to find out how it is that they can benefit from it if they meet the necessary requirements. So, you know, I believe that the government's investment in going solar is something that is going to continue for quite some time. And, you know, as Ms. Johnson said, I believe that they are really pushing for the country to go in that direction. As you know, we're preaching green energy, and you know, with Jamaica becoming more and more involved in the fight against climate change and global warming, then we understand, you know, the benefit of such a move by the government, and I really don't foresee them going back on that. You know, so that is definitely something that, even though it's a possibility, you know, I believe that there's a low probability of it occurring. So, Robbie, you have your hand raised. You can please go unmute your mic and go ahead.
I just wanted to add to the risk. There's one additional risk. You know, sometimes things that is seen as a benefit, sometimes can become a curse. So, you know, earlier I stated that no, these systems are all in one. No, it poses a big risk because now you have a single point of failure that can literally cripple your system. So back in the day, you would have your charge controller separate from your inverter. Your charge controller is what charges your battery, right? So the panels connect directly to the charge controller. The charge controller charges your battery, manage the charge of your battery. The inverter then, in return, pull energy from the battery to produce, converting the DC to AC to power the house. Now, when you put everything in one package, you have a failure. Your literally entire system is down. Once the inverter fails, everything is down, and it's no longer field serviceable. Back in the day, the first generation inverters are field serviceable. So you could just go out in the field and just switch out a one part and get you back up and running. Now, because of how the complexity of these inverters, because they are smart, they can do a lot of things. It goes beyond just grid time, selling back to the grid. These inverters now can say, hey, let's tell you what, you can program an inverter in such a way where, say you're using a kilowatt and you're only getting half of that from the sun. It will just take the additional half from the grid and send it, both of them together as one to your house. It only takes the little that it needs. It can do so many things. You can program it, but because of this new sophistication, when these things fail, you are in trouble. One point of failure, so that also now poses a big risk to your system.
Thank you so very much for that bit of information there, Robbie. I think I want to return to a question that was asked, but I am not sure if we got a response on it. And it's in relation to the networking between Konnex and NHT in terms of customers. We know that there's a loan facility available at NHT. Can customers applying for this loan do it and get their service done from Konnex?
Yes, we've done this for several of our customers in the past.
once the loan is accessible to them, because if you've used it in the past, then you can't use it now, right? Several of our customers have used this loan to it's a home improvement loan. It's valued up to $3.5 million. And several of our customers have used it to do solar installations, because the MHT views installing solar as a home improvement project and actually increases the property value, right? So this is one way to benefit through MHT. Also, the Development Bank of Jamaica offers solar improvement, solar loans up to $2.5 million, right? There are also other lending institutions like Scotiabank, JMMB, that offer green loans to make the process of getting solar much more easier for the consumer.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. So that clears that up for us. And so it means then for any of our panelists, or any of our participants rather, and if they know anyone who are so mindful that they want to go solar and they are considering going through NHG to apply for that loan, then they can rest assured that they will be serviced, or they can be serviced by Konnex with that loan facility. So thank you so very much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of another wonderful discussion and another exciting, and I want to say informative session. Oh, it's the holidays. It's the time of giving, isn't it, Mr. Johnson and Miss Johnson?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And so I've been reliably informed that we do have some giveaways. Is that so?
We have some giveaways, Mr. Johnson.
Do we have some giveaways?
Do you have some giveaways?
I mean, we'd be happy to extend some giveaways to the panelists tonight.
Wonderful.
Well, I can always find something, so yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, you are here tonight not just to get information, but also to benefit from some giveaway. So as we have heard both our panelists indicate that they can facilitate some giveaways. So I don't know what do we have up for giveaways? Because we want to ask some questions to persons who have been here all night. We want to ask some questions, and we want to hear what it is that they can get when they get these answers correctly.
Well, I will offer two $10,000 voucher, e-cash vouchers, which means
Wow.
10,000 off your electricity bill.
Wow, wonderful.
Can offer two of those.
All right.
Would I be eligible for that, Ms. Johnson?
Well, you could be, but you don't need it, Mr. Johnson. Robbie, Robbie, guess what? I'm just gonna give you but Robbie, you don't need it though.
That is about my entire year bill. I need that for the 1 year.
Need it for the 1 year. All right, Robbie, I give it to you because you really were. I find you to be an excellent informant on the program. Yes, I offer you a $10,000 voucher, which you can use to offset your 10,000 for the year, right?
Awesome.
All right,
Awesome.
so I'm gonna need. How do I get the information?
So what you can do, Robbie, you can send your information.
All right, I'm gonna
directly
put my
to
email in the
Johnson.
chat, and you just send me your information.
Right, so you can, and that goes for anybody else who will win one of those vouchers, one of those $10,000 vouchers tonight. So you can look out for the email address that she's going to send in the chat. And if you are one of our winners, then you can definitely send your information to her to be able to collect your prize. All right, and there it is. That is rujohnson@jpsco.com. That's rujohnson@jpsco.com. And so the first question, and it goes to the person who raises their hand first. And the question is, what are the 2 types of batteries that are used? All right, so Mr. Fernandez Anderson has his hand raised first. You can unmute and go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
I think it is lithium, and the other one that uses the lead and acid. I don't remember the exact name, but I remember the technology.
All right, that is in fact the name. It is called the lead acid battery.
Lead acid,
and
right.
the lithium ion battery. So congratulations, Mr. Anderson.
Yes!
You won yourself a 10,000 voucher from JPS. So you can go ahead and email your information to Miss Johnson to claim your prize. All right, wonderful. Now, the next question.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. You're welcome. The next question is, and it's going to be a 2-part question. What is the name of that facility that exists where customers can benefit by selling electricity to JPS, and how do you apply for it? So I see Mr. Devon Thompson, his hand raised for this one. So go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
It's a net billing system, and you can apply for it through the Ministry of Energy or something. That ministry.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Congratulations, Mr. Thompson. Yes, you are correct. It's the net billing system, and yes, you apply for it through the Ministry of Energy. And so congratulations to you, Mr. Thompson. You have won yourself a voucher from a $10,000 voucher from JPS.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Johnson, we know that you have something to offer as well. So I don't know, do you want to ask 2 questions, or do you want me to come up with a question for you?
I'll give you the floor to ask the questions, but what we would be extending to the winners, the winner would be 8% off their solar system if they choose to go with Konnex, or 8% off of a solar water heater system if they choose to get a system like that from us.
All right. So they will be getting an 8% discount. And if you really think about it, ladies and gentlemen, that's really a nice sum of your money. Because if it is that you're purchasing a system that values $3 million, let's say, that's probably 300 and something that you save in your pocket. The 8% reduction is not bad at all. And so I think I want to find a really good question for this one. All right. Let me see. What is one of the most, or 2 of the most important components that you need for your solar system? 2 of the most important components. I'm looking around, I'm only seeing 2 persons responding to this one. All right, I see a 3rd hand, and because Mr. Thompson and Mr. Anderson already won something, let me give this one to Mr. Horton, Marvis Horton. So 2 of the most important components that you need for your solar.
Batteries and panels.
Repeat that.
Batteries and panels.
Batteries and panel. Would you say that is correct, Mr. Johnson?
No, that would be correct. It would be.
Hold on, no, don't give the answer away.
I'm not gonna give her the answer.
All right. So he said that answer is not correct, Mr. Horton. So I have to give somebody else a chance. And I see Miss Dolly with her hand raised. Go ahead, Miss Dolly. Miss Patty?
I think I don't remember one. I think it's a good roof. And
What?
it's supposed to have a good roof where you can
Good
put
roof.
the solar system on.
Yes.
And something else. I don't remember the next one. A good roof.
That's all. That's only one half of the question, Miss
Half of
Dali.
it?
That's only a half. Remember, you're supposed to tell two. So I see Miss Hines Wilson with her hand raised. Go ahead, Miss Hines Wilson.
Good roof and proper support system for the panels to be erected on.
All right, Mr. Johnson, what say you to that?
That wouldn't be the most complete answer because the panels can be installed on the ground. So, come on, somebody try again.
All right. I see Mr. Anderson's hand is still raised. So let's give Mr. Even though he won something already, let's hear what Mr. Anderson's response will be.
And if you want to take back the 10,000 after I get this 8%, that would be better for me. But I'll try. All right. So I would say the inverter and the panels.
All right, Mr. Anderson, your work. That's correct.
So the inverter and the panel. Congratulations. So are you saying that you're swapping your 10,000, your 10,000 with somebody else?
If I can get both, I'll take. But if I have to choose one, the 8% would be more than $10,000.
All right. So Miss Johnson, what say you?
I'm
Somebody else a chance to win that $10,000.
Hey, I would give him both.
You
All
give
right,
him
I'll
both.
take both.
All right.
I've been listening intensely because I'm so interested to go solar.
Wonderful.
Yes,
I've been in dialogue with Mr. Johnson while the meeting was going on.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is we are coming down. We're winding down. Do you?
Kester Fennel.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good night. I was on for a while, so I just returned. Only to see Mr. Anderson. I didn't even know that a prize. You're offering a prize. I sit here knowing the answer and don't say anything. Anderson.
That means you were. Oh, you said that you were off for a while.
Yes, I was off for a while.
Oh,
So
wow.
Anderson, talk to me, no man. Remember, I tell you, I'm fully solar now.
All right, Miss Johnson, I don't know, Mr. Johnson, do you have anything else that you could offer? We could throw another question out there.
That one would have to be 5,000 if I'm giving away any more.
All right, not a problem. That sounds good, right, Mr. Clive? So if you get the next question correct, you will be able to get a $5,000 discount on your JPS bill. And I want to find a question for this one. All right. In our discussion, there was something mentioned. Let me just lower Mr. Anderson's hand. Right. In our discussion, there was a mention about grid and solar, and there was a point in our discussion where we were talking about when it switches. What is the name of the setup? What is the name of the setup of the solar system when it works alongside the JPS system?
Grid tie.
Grid tie. All right, wonderful. Congratulations to you, Mr. Clive. You have won yourself a
for a gentleman who sounds like he has a grid tie system.
Yeah, you said that's a man who sounds like he has a grid tie system.
No,
Yes.
I have a off-grid system, fully solar.
Fully off the grid.
Oh, fully off grid.
Battery.
So then
So
you
you're
don't
gonna
need that
donate your voucher to somebody.
Well,
You're gonna donate your voucher to your neighbor.
Mr. Clive. I wanted to offer it to
I have another property, so maybe I can send it to that.
of our participants. Just look in the list and choose somebody and offer it to them.
All right.
Me.
I just sent something in the chat.
Let me see now.
All right.
Me for effort.
All right, before the night is out, I'll let somebody know.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me say a big thank you for sticking and staying the course of this discussion. You know, I believe that I speak for everyone when I say that it was very, very informative. I know that I have learned a lot, and I believe that I might need to have a personal discussion with Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
That I can get started on working on my solar system. And you know, Miss Johnson, I want to say a big thank you to you for always joining us. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for coming on and for sharing with all our participants here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
For that, you know, this video, it will be available on YouTube, and so other persons who weren't able to join us live tonight will be able to benefit from the information that has been shared here tonight. So for you, our participants, please feel free to share with persons that they can find or information on YouTube, and you can look for CSSB North. That is CSSB North 83. That is our handle on YouTube. You can go where you'll be able to find other videos that have already been uploaded there, and they'll be able to access this information as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for always joining us here month after month for our program. This is our last program for the year, and so we look forward to seeing you again in January 2024. And we wish for you and your family a safe, prosperous, and happy holiday and a new year when it comes. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And I have been your host for the Family Empowerment Discussion, Corporal Kester Fennel. This is where we educate the family. Have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Very much.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best to everyone. Mr. Rowe, in order to retrieve your prize, you can send an email to Miss Johnson. Her email address is in the chat. It is rujohnson, that's the letters RU Johnson @jpsco.com. Got that, Mr. Rowe? Did you get that information, Mr. Rowe?
I'll be where Jamaican Christmas breezes blow. They tell me snow is pretty, well maybe